双语音标领航，注音阅读启蒙，叶兴阳有声读物。
Dora Thorne by Charlotte M. Bream. Chapter 1. The consequences of folly seldom end with its originator, said Lord Earl to his son. Rely upon it, Ronald. If you were to take this most foolish and unadvisable step, you would bring misery upon yourself and every one connected with you. Listen to reason. There is no reason in prejudice, replied the young man haughtily. You cannot bring forward one valid reason against my marriage. Despite his annoyance, a smile broke over Lord Earl's grave face. I can bring 1,000 reasons, if necessary, he replied. I grant everything you say. Dora Thorne is very pretty, but, remember, she is quite a rustic and unformed beauty, and I almost doubt whether she can read or spell properly. She is modest and good, I grant, and I never heard one syllable against her. Ronald, let me appeal to your better judgment. Are a moderate amount of rustic prettiness and shy modesty sufficient qualifications for your wife, who will have to take your mother's place? They are quite sufficient to satisfy me, replied the young man. You have others to consider, said Lord Earl, quickly. I love her, interrupted his son, and again his father smiled. We know what it means, he said, when boys of 19 talk about love. Believe me, Ronald, if I were to consent to your request, you would be the first in after years to reproach me for weak compliance with your youthful folly. You would not call it folly, retorted Ronald, his face flushing hotly, if Dora were an heiress, or the daughter of some. Spare me a long discourse, again interrupted Lord Earl. You are quite right. If the young girl in question belonged to your own station, or even if she were near it, that would be quite a different matter. I am not annoyed that you have, as you think, fallen in love, or that you wish to marry. Although you are young, I am annoyed that you should dream of wishing to marry a simple rustic, the daughter of my lodge-keeper. It is so supremely ridiculous that I can hardly treat the matter seriously. It is serious enough for me, returned his son with a long, deep sigh. If I do not marry Dora Thorne, I shall never marry at all. Better that than a mésalliance, said Lord Earl, shortly. She is good, cried Ronald. Good and fair, modest and graceful. Her heart is pure as her face is fair. What mésalliance can there be? Father, I never have believed and never shall believe in the cruel laws of caste. In what is one man better than or superior to another save that he is more intelligent or more virtuous? I shall never interfere in your politics, Ronald, said Lord Earl, laughing quietly. Before you are 21 you will have gone through many stages of that fever. Youth is almost invariably liberal, age conservative. Adopt what line of politics you will, but do not bring theory into practice in this instance. I should consider myself a hero, continued the young man, if I could be the first to break through the trammels of custom and the absurd laws of caste. You would not be the first, said Lord Earl, quietly. Many before you have made unequal marriages. Many will do so after you, but in every case I believe regret and disappointment followed. They would not in my case, said Ronald, eagerly. And with Dora Thorne by my side, I could sow anything. Without her, I can do nothing. Lord Earl looked grieved at the pertinacity of his son. Most fathers would refuse to hear all this nonsense. Ronald, he said, gently, I listen, and try to convince you by reasonable arguments that the step you seem bent upon taking is one that will entail nothing but misery. I have said no angry word to you, nor shall I do so. I tell you simply it cannot be. Dora Thorne, my lodge-keeper's daughter, is no fitting wife for my son, the heir of Earlscourt. Come with me, Ronald. I will show you further what I mean. They went together, the father and son, so like in face yet so dissimilar in mind. They had been walking up and down the broad terrace, one of the chief beauties of Earlscourt. The park and pleasure grounds, with flushed summer beauty, lay smiling around them. The song of hundreds of birds trilled through the sweet summer air, The water of many fountains rippled musically. Rare flowers charmed the eye and sent forth sweet perfume, but neither song of birds nor fragrance of flowers, neither sunshine nor music brought any brightness to the grave faces of the father and son. With slow steps they quitted the broad terrace and entered the hall. They passed through a long suite of magnificent apartments, up the broad marble staircase, through long corridors, until they reached the picture gallery, one of the finest in England. Nearly every great master was represented there. Murillo, Guido, Raphael, Claude Lorraine, Salvator Rosa, Correggio, and Tintoretto. The lords of Earlscourt had all loved pictures, and each of them had added to the treasures of that wonderful gallery. One portion of the gallery was set aside for the portraits of the family. Grim old warriors and fair ladies hung side by side, faces of marvelous beauty, bearing the signs of noble descent, shone out clearly from their gilded frames. "Look, Ronald," Lord Earl said, laying one hand upon his shoulder. "You stand before your ancestors now. Yours is a grand old race. England knows and honors it. Look at these pictured faces of the wives our fathers chose. There is Lady Sabella Earle. When one of Cromwell's soldiers drew his dagger to slay her husband, the truest friend King Charles ever had, she flung herself before him and received the blow in his stead. She died, and he lived noble and beautiful. Is she not? Now look at the lacy Alicia, this fair patrician lady smiling by the side of her grim lord. She, at the risk of her life, helped him to fly from prison, where he lay condemned to death for some great political wrong. She saved him, and for her sake he received pardon. Here is the Lady Helena. She is not beautiful, but look at the intellect, the queenly brow, the soul-lit eyes. She, I need not tell you, was a poetess. Wherever the English language was spoken, her verses were read. Men were nobler and better for reading them. The ladies of our race were such that brave men may be proud of them. Is it not so, Ronald? Yes, he replied, calmly. They were noble women. Lord Earl then led his son to a large painting, upon which the western sunbeams lingered, brightening the fair face they shone upon, until it seemed living and smiling. A deep and tender reverence stole into Lord Earl's voice as he spoke. No fairer or more noble woman ever ruled at Earlscourt than your mother, Ronald. She is the daughter of 100 earls, high-bred, beautiful, and refined. Now, let me ask you, in the name of common sense, do you wish to place my lodge-keeper's daughter by your mother's side? Admit that she is pretty and good. Is it in the fitting order of things that she should be here? For the first time, in the heedless, fiery course of his love, Ronald Earl paused. He looked at the serene and noble face before him, the broad brow, the sweet, arched lips, the refined patrician features, and there came to him the memory of another face, charming, shy and blushing, with a rustic, graceful beauty different from the one before him as sunlight compared to moonlight. The words faltered upon his lips instinctively. He felt that pretty, blushing Dora had no place there. Lord Earl looked relieved as he saw the doubt upon his son's face. You see it, Ronald, he cried. Your idea of the fusion of races is well enough in theory, but it will not do brought into practice. I have been patient with you. I have treated you, not as a schoolboy whose head is half turned by his first love, but as a sensible man endowed with reason and thought. Now give me a reward. Promise me here that you will make a brave effort, give up all foolish thoughts of Dora Thorne, and not see her again. Go abroad for a year or two. You will soon forget this boyish folly, and bless the good sense that has saved you from it. Will you promise me, Ronald? I cannot, father, he replied, for I have promised Dora to make her my wife. I cannot break my word. You yourself could never counsel that. In this case I can, said Lord Earl, eagerly. That promise is not binding, even in honor. The girl herself, if she has any reason, cannot, and does not expect it. She believed me, said Ronald, simply. Besides, I love her, father. Hush, replied Lord Earl, angrily. I will listen to no more nonsense. There is a limit to my patience. Once and for all, Ronald, I tell you that I decidedly forbid any mention of such a marriage. It is degrading and ridiculous. I forbid you to marry Dora Thorne. If you disobey me, you must bear the penalty. And what would the penalty be? Asked the heir of Earlscourt, with a coolness and calmness that irritated the father. One you would hardly wish to pay, replied the Earl. If, in spite of my prayers, entreaties, and commands, you persist in marrying the girl, I will never look upon your face again. My home shall be no longer your home. You will lose my love, my esteem, and what perhaps those who have lured you to ruin may value still more, my wealth. I cannot disinherit you, but if you persist in this folly, I will not allow you one farthing. You shall be to me as one dead until I die myself. I have 300 a year, said Ronald, calmly, that my godfather left me. Lord Earl's face now grew white with anger. Yes, he replied, you have that. It would not find you in gloves and cigars now. But, Ronald, you cannot be serious. My boy, I have loved you. I have been so proud of you. You cannot mean to defy and wound me. His voice faltered, and his son looked up quickly, touched to the heart by his father's emotion. Give me your consent, father, he cried, passionately. You know I love you, and I love Dora. I cannot give up Dora. Enough, said Lord Earl. Words seem useless. You hear my final resolve. I shall never change it. No, after repentance, no entreaties will move me. Choose between your parents, your home, your position, and the love of this fair, foolish girl, of whom in a few months you'll be tired and weary. Choose between us. I ask for no promises. You have refused to give it. I appeal no more to your affection. I leave you to decide for yourself. I might coerce and force you, but I will not do so. Obey me, and I will make your happiness my study. Defy me, and marry the girl then. In life, I will never look upon your face again. Henceforth, I will have no son. You will not be worthy of the name. There is no appeal. I leave you now to make your choice. This is my final resolve. Chapter 2. The Earls of Earlscourt were one of the oldest families in England. The barony of Earl is mentioned in the early reigns of the Tudor kings. They never appeared to have taken any great part either in politics or warfare. The annals of the family told of simple, virtuous lives. They contained, too, some few romantic incidents. Some of the older barons had been brave soldiers, and there were stories of hairbreadth escapes and great exploits by flood and field. 2 or 3 had taken to politics, and had suffered through their eagerness and zeal, but, as a rule, the barons of Earl had been simple, kindly gentlemen, contented to live at home upon their own estates, satisfied with the duties they found there, careful in the alliances they contracted, and equally careful in the bringing up and establishment of their children. One and all they had been zealous cultivators of the fine arts. Earlscourt was almost overcrowded with pictures, statues, and works of art. Son succeeded father, inheriting with title and estate the same kindly, simple dispositions and the same tastes, until Rupert Earl, 19th Baron, with whom our story opens, became Lord Earl. Simplicity and kindness were not his characteristics. He was proud, ambitious, and inflexible. He longed for the time when the earls should become famous, when their name should be one of weight in council. In early life, his ambitious desires seemed about to be realized. He was but 20 when he succeeded his father, and was an only child, clever, keen, and ambitious. In his 21st year, he married Lady Helena Brooklyn, the daughter of one of the proudest peers in Britain. There lay before him a fair and useful life. His wife was an elegant, accomplished woman, who knew the world and its ways, who had, from her earliest childhood, been accustomed to the highest and best society. Lord Ole often told her, laughingly, that she would have made an excellent ambassadress. Her manners were so bland and gracious. She had the rare gift of appearing interested in everyone and in everything. With such a wife at the head of his establishment, Lord Ole hoped for great things. He looked to a prosperous career as a statesman. No honors seemed to him too high, no ambition too great, but a hard fate lay before him. He made one brilliant and successful speech in Parliament, a speech never forgotten by those who heard it, for its astonishing eloquence, its keen wit, its bitter satire. Never again did his voice rouse alike friend and foe. He was seized with a sudden and dangerous illness, which brought him to the brink of the grave. After a long and desperate struggle with the grim enemy, he slowly recovered. But all hope of public life was over for him. The doctors said he might live to be a hale old man if he took proper precautions. He must live quietly, avoid all excitement, and never dream again of politics. To Lord Ole this seemed like a sentence of exile or death. His wife tried her utmost to comfort and console him, but for some years he lived only to repine at his lot. Lady Helena devoted herself to him. Earlscourt became the center and home of famous hospitality. Men of letters, artists, and men of note visited there, and in time Lord Earl became reconciled to his fate. All his hopes and his ambitions were now centered in his son, Ronald, a fine, noble boy, like his father in every respect save one. He had the same clear-cut Saxon face, with clear, honest eyes and proud lips, the same fair hair and stately carriage, but in one respect they differed. Lord Ole was firm and inflexible. No one ever thought of appealing against his decision or trying to change his resolution. If my lord had spoken, the matter was settled. Even Lady Helena knew that any attempt to influence him was vain. Ronald, on the contrary, could be stubborn, but not firm. He was more easily influenced. Appeal to the better part of his nature, to his affection or sense of duty, was seldom made in vain. No other children gladdened the Lord Earl's heart, and all his hopes were centered in his son. For the second time in his life, great hopes and ambitions rose within him. What he had not achieved his son would do. The honor he could no longer seek might one day be his son's. There was something almost pitiful in the love of the stern, disappointed man for his child. He longed for the time when Ronald would be of age to commence his public career. He planned for his son as he had never planned for himself. Time passed on, and the heir of Earlscourt went to Oxford, as his father had done before him. Then came the second bitter disappointment of Lord Earl's life. He himself was a Tory of the old school. Liberal principles were an abomination to him. He hated and detested everything connected with liberalism. It was a great shock when Ronald returned from college a full-fledged liberal. With his usual keenness, he saw that all discussion was useless. "Let the liberal fever wear out," said one of his friends. "You will find, Lord Earl, that all young men favor it. Conservatism is the result of age and experience. By the time your son takes a position in the world, he will have passed through many stages of liberalism." Lord Earl devoutly believed it. When the first shock of his disappointment was over, Ronald's political zeal began to amuse him. He liked to see the boy earnest in everything. He smiled when Ronald, in his clear, young voice, read out the speeches of the chief of his party. He smiled when the young man, eager to bring theory into practice, fraternized with the tenant farmers, and visited families from whom his father shrunk in aristocratic dread. There was little doubt that in those days Ronald Earl believed himself called to a great mission. He dreamed of the time when the barriers of caste would be thrown down, when men would have equal rights and privileges, when the aristocracy of intellect and virtue would take precedence of noble birth.